My name is Ryan Bradley, and today I'm going to be talking about how the appreciation of the U.S. dollar has affected investors. It's affected the domestic economy, how it has affected the global economy, and how it has also affected international trade, and how it also has affected inflation domestically as well as globally. So first, I'm going to be talking about appreciation that the U.S. dollar has seen. So over the last year, the U.S. dollar has appreciated by about 13.5%, and the value of the euro compared to the dollar is $0.993. And due to this is the first time in 20 years that the U.S. dollar is worth more than the euro. So next is international trade. So with the US dollar appreciating, this means that American goods will become more expensive in foreign markets and US exports will decrease. So foreign markets and foreign consumers will have to spend more money on less or have to spend more money for the same amount of goods, or they have to pay the same amount and receive less goods for US exports. In the domestic market, though, this will be better as imported goods will become cheaper and the dollar would be able to buy more for what it's worth. This also means that though the U.S. deficit in imports to exports will continue to grow because U.S. citizens will be able to buy more imports and the U.S. exports will be selling less because they're more expensive. And this will also lead to a decrease in the inflation rate, but these effects might not be seen immediately, rather over a period of time. And economists aren't entirely sure if these effects will be large enough to see on how the inflation rate is. Next is investing. So investing is very important, and many foreign and domestic investors have to take into account the value of the US dollar while investing in the US stock market. And because of this, there are three scenarios. So the first one is a person has shared the stocks that are in companies based on imported goods, energy, or commodities. Then a person would want the dollar to appreciate rather than decline, as those companies would be able to buy more for less. This also plays into decisions that companies make about products. If the dollar declines, companies have to decide whether to keep the same price but make less, or raise prices and lose sales. So if the US dollar appreciates and companies are more focused on imports, that will be good for those companies as consumers will be willing to spend more on consumers will spend more on imports because the imports will be cheaper. And the second scenario is when a person has a diverse portfolio where they have both invested in both domestic companies as well as international companies. And this scenario is more complicated as it really depends on how much a person is invested either domestically or internationally. But this scenario has sort of an evening out effect as an appreciating dollar will help the domestic market but hurt the international market. Thus, the effect will sort of be neutraled out, and there will be either a very small change in a person's stock portfolio value, or there'll be basically no change at all. But it really depends on how much a person has invested either domestically or internationally. And the third scenario is when a person is heavily invested in international companies when the US dollar is appreciating. This leads to their stock portfolio decreasing as those international companies will be able to buy less of US exports with their money because those exports will be worth more money. And the investing also relies heavily on international trade as well. Now, the next thing we'll be talking about is the global economic impact of the US appreciating dollar. So the increasing price of the US dollar is affecting economies around the world as they need to charge more for goods Thus, citizens have to pay more in response. This can lead to a person's income being worth less than what it was. And in a result, people in foreign nations will have to work either more shifts or longer hours, so their money will have the same effect as it did before the US dollar started appreciating. Now, this does not only affect poorer countries, but it can also affect richer nations. Some countries in Europe are starting to see financial struggles as they're having energy crises as well as Russia's invasion of Ukraine, causing up many problems as well. Many foreign nation workers are having to take more money or take more shifts to make more money, or they have to start making sacrifices on what goods they're choosing to buy, so their money can have the same effect as what it used to. Now, this is in a struggle as the U.S. cannot control its appreciating value, although it has some effect in it. But with the domestic markets and economy and the global economy starting to have shifts, it is crucial to see how the US dollar has an effect on the entire global market as a whole. Next, I'm going to be talking about inflation in general. And the appreciation of the US dollar has been able to help curb domestic inflation here in the United States. But it is increasing inflation in other nations around the world. Now, this might seem like something that we as Americans might not have to worry about, but we should, because although our inflation is decreasing as the dollar goes up and inflation around the world is increasing, the increasing inflation of more nations globally has a larger effect on the global economy than just one nation, us, the United States, has on it. And this can cause a recession, which will hurt the US economy as a whole as well. So although we might be doing well from the appreciating dollar and companies aren't, we also have to be taken into the fact that those companies being hurt will eventually affect our economy, as it can cause the global economy to go into recession. And then some taking away points from what I learned is a strong US dollar both has good benefits and it also has problems. It's a give and take, just like everything in the world. It has goods and it has its bad. It's good for the US imports, but it's bad for the US exports. It's good for investors who are investing in US companies, but it's bad for investors investing in international companies. So it's really a give and take on which side of the appreciating dollar you on. So it could help you or it could harm you. And going back to the import and exports, an appreciating dollar encourages the US to import more goods, but it also discourages the US to export goods, as most people won't be able to buy our goods as it become increasing in price. And the next one was the increasing dollar curbs inflation, but it hurts global inflation. And this also affects the next point that I make, where the inflation rate also affects the global economy, where our dollar is appreciating, it hurts global inflation, and global inflation thus hurts the global economy, which can lead us into a recession. The next thing that I noticed along with investing is US bonds and securities can become important financial investments for both domestic and international investors, as the appreciating dollar will make those investments have a greater output than what they initially did, because the dollar would be worth more than what it was when they put their investments in. This also goes along with the increasing interest rates that are being seen here in the United States to help curb inflation, as US bonds and treasuries with increasing investments will become very important to people. And next is just my reference pages, and I use 6 references in my research paper. So that's my report. Thank you.